Good afternoon, Muskegon. Hi, this is Gregory Todd Roberts, your reporter or your anchor or whatever you want to call me, or torn into. I'm your host for today. This lovely day. Matter of fact, it's March 12th. It is 43 degrees outside and beautiful. Get your butt out there and enjoy it. Now, what I need you to do is I need you to get on Facebook. If you're listening to this, get home on. You can take part of this conversation by uh, our Facebook sites, WVS 103.7 The Beats Facebook site, or M106, and take part of the questions and write your, because we have a special guest today, and I want you to be able to ask the questions that you need to ask. Number three, I need you to share this message, because how many times did you get a chance to talk to the chief of police and fire, better known as the director of public safety? Um, Before that, I just want to make a quick announcement. I did get my injection. I did get it at Myers, and it was huge. A lot of people, but there is one thing. There's a couple of things I was missing in that line when I was at Myers. Out of all the thousands of people that they gave shots, minorities were missing. I think there were like 300 people there at that particular time, and there were only three minorities, and I was the only. I was part of that three. So a lot of minorities still. And hey, if you look at the past, we do have some questions, but I plead with everyone to do your homework on these shots: Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson. Um, do your homework, and make a wise decision on what you're going to do. Speaking of wise, today I bring in, and I'm going to call him chief. Chief, I'm going to salute to our chief. He's the director of public safety for Muskegon. People, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Chief Jeffrey Lewis. How you doing, sir?
Uh, Gregory, I'm doing fantastic, and I'm glad you started off with the vaccine. I did not want to take it. I just picked myself up, went down there, and took it. And I'll tell you, I felt emotionally better once I got that shot. I did, and so I
Oh,
encourage everyone just do it.
I did too. I felt great, no side effects. I felt wonderful. We were able to get that Pfizer shot. You can register through the county. You can register through Meyer. And now, also, there are other places that are starting to, NAACP are starting to offer where you can get these shots. People, I plead with you to do your research and get that vaccination. Okay, Chief Jeffrey Lewis, how are you doing, sir? And welcome to the show.
Doing fantastic. Got through 2020, and hopefully this COVID thing is behind us. But I'm feeling great, and thank you for having me on. Okay.
Thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. Okay, you wear many hats, so we're going to try to get to two hats today. Um, maybe a third. Would you tell people a little bit about your history, your background, education, or whatever you would like to?
Certainly, as I've talked before, I spent about 28 to 29 years in law enforcement, public safety before I got here. And now, like I told you, I'm approaching the 10-year mark here at Muskegon, where I've worked with, I work the police department, the fire department, and inspections. And it came at a perfect time in my career because it's at the end. So I brought a lot to the job. Muskegon is a very challenging place, but yet it's rewarding. It's challenging. I'm so glad I'm here. And like I said, when I came here, I thought about doing the little stepping stone thing, but it's been such a great experience here. I love Muskegon in many different ways, geographical location, everything about it. So I stayed. But when I came in here, like I said, I brought 30 years of experience. I have a master's degree from Eastern Michigan University. Go Eagles! And I have other in-service trainings like FBI Academy, the Northwestern Staff Command, Police Academy, and those things that I brought with me. I think it's helped me service the city of Muskegon and the greater area, which they deserve. And I put everything towards this to make our place a safe community for all of us.
Hmm. Now, we were talking off air. Usually police, city managers, fire, they usually move and hop around. Do you see that this is going to be your last stepping stone here in Muskegon and retire here, or are you going to make another move? Do you think?
No, I do not believe I'm going to make any moves. It's simply because once I got here, like I said, I thought, wow, I'll come in here, be this public safety director. It's a great opportunity. And then I'll be out of here. But you know what? Once I got here and I started meeting people from the community, I got entrenched. And then I started goal setting. There was a lot of work here to be done, police,
Hmm.
fire, and inspections. And I think we should have a program on each one of those disciplines. But what is accomplished over the last 10 years has been a lot. But I've been able to do it because we have citizen support, commissioner support, and a need for change, enhancement, and bringing everything to the 21st century. That's
Hmm.
why it happened. And when I got that green light, that's why I thought I should stay.
How important is citizen involvement?
Gregory, I can't even tell you how important it is to get feedback from the citizens. Because, see, what I think I know sometimes or what I want to do is not correct. I got to get a voice from the community to tell us what they think. We
Hmm.
don't always agree, but many times they walk away at least understanding what we're doing,
Right,
even though they don't agree. You know what I'm saying? And I
right.
think 2020 was perfect for that. We're a police department like all around the country, Minneapolis, Baltimore, Ferguson, but yet we do it so that the citizens at least feel served by their police service, and it's not
Hmm.
a police force. We've had
Hmm.
our issues, but I turned to the community and asked them for help and support. Every time they stepped up, our social justice commission, our prosecutor's office, and helped me through the issue. It's worked every single time. And for that, I thank the community, because when these police departments go awry, like you see in Ferguson and other places, the community has to step up and be part of their police department. If they don't, you see around the country what happens.
Right, right. And I'm glad that you addressed that. Um, Also, when you look at your fire department, what makes your fire department and your police, both departments, what makes those departments different from others? For instance, if you look at what happened with George Floyd, a lot of people are not happy with that those police departments. Um, what makes your department different than other departments?
Well, when it comes to the police department, I'll start there. The police department, even before George Floyd or these other horrific incidents around the country, we were working from change within. Our commissioners pay attention to our police department. They were asking us, we were addressing issues as we went forward. At just about a month ago, we became a accredited department, which
Yeah.
means the state of Michigan has certified us to have the correct policies. We've addressed all the eight can't eight can't wait came out and said, we don't want you doing these things. We were already
Hmm.
working on that. We didn't wait for a George Floyd incident in Muskegon to start. We have
Hmm.
been working the entire 10 years I've been here. And before that, I didn't start it. I didn't create it. I'm not the inventor. The wheels were turning when I got here. I just
Hmm.
took advantage of that. And now, because of that, we have got policies, procedures that the community is clamoring for all around the nation. And we had a certification to prove. We had assessors come in, look at us, and certify us to be, a 21st century bona fide department with techniques and the things we need to police our community
Hmm.
properly. I mean,
Hmm.
we're not going to make a mistake, but we have things in place to catch that. Now, let
Hmm.
me segue over to fire. Um, Fire, as we talked about before we came on air, we had a very experienced and longevity fire department in
Hmm.
2019, and it was coming up where we had a lot of retirements. Matter of fact, I hired 20, I believe, new firefighters. When that happens, your fire department is drastically affected, because
Right.
even though you have numbers, you're missing your experience. And
Hmm.
I'll tell you though, myself and Deputy Director Paulson, along with our senior staff that's left, not much, and a few of the senior people have worked very hard to get those new firefighters up to speed. I can tell you this, I'm very proud of them. They're all highly trained. They all came from area fire departments where they had some experience. They're all medically trained. And when they got here, they've been in the training programs and they're out there servicing the community. And I say, what makes it different than other places is we have a full-time fire department.
Mm-hmm.
They all want to be here. They're trained. They're doing an excellent job. And I watch them every day service the community. But there again, we need that feedback to know what's going on out there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's start with the police department. What are the runs? How many runs are you guys running right now? And how many police officers do you have?
Okay, we have an authorized strength of 80 sworn police officers. That's the good news. Now here's the bad news. We have been in a hiring process for probably 4 years straight. Our numbers right now are in the low 70s, which is disturbing. We just ran a process for about 8 to 12 weeks to get applicants. Okay, we have about, I'd say, 5 or 6 openings right now.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, we had 4 qualified applicants. 4.
Wow.
After 12 weeks of advertising. Do you see the problem we're having here?
Yeah.
And that is not a diverse group. It is not. So when we go to our police academies and we go to our colleges, we're not seeing people of color or women going after criminal justice degrees or wanting to go to the academy. So we have segued in Muskegon to a developmental program, and we're trying to work with them, our community, getting people from our community that want to start from the street, so to speak.
Right.
We will bring them in. We have 2 right now. They're in what we call an intern program. They'll be with us for 6 to 8 months. Then they'll start the academy, and we will mentor them, coach them, tutor them, do everything we can to get them through the academy. Then they go into a training program. It takes another 6 months to a year to get them through our in-house probationary training program. So we're talking 2 years before an officer can really hit the streets and be able to make basically inexperienced decisions. You know what I mean? Because they don't have much experience, right? They got the training, but now they need the experience. So we need the community to really work with us, find those men and women in our community that like to do this job, that want to grow up here, want to work here, want to stay here, and serve the community. We really need that. Some of our hirees, and there's nothing wrong with it, they come from way up north, or they come from the east side of the state. I'm from the east side of the state. But like you mentioned it, sometimes they get here, they get a little experience. What do they want to do?
They leave.
They want to go back home.
Yep.
And so we like to get the hometowners, because if they want to go home, they're already here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we're doing a lot of things even in the city where we have now a residential bonus. So if you live here and then work here and live in our city, you get a significant bonus to do that. And it's working. That incentive is working because we didn't have that before. So we're inventing ways to get, especially what I call the new people, the young people, interested in this profession. It is an honorable profession. I don't care what anybody says. It is.
It is.
To come here and to serve. It is not easy. You ask any of my police officers, it is not easy, but hey, it's a job, right?
Right.
So you come here, you learn your community, you learn your people, you see what's going on, you do your job. And you know what? If you follow our standards, our policy procedures, you're going to be okay.
Okay.
You're going to be just fine.
Where are you guys at? What did you finish? How many runs in 2020 with police?
You know, we're above 50,000 runs with all the jobs we do. That's incidents, that's cases, that's like, our proactive policing, like traffic stop stuff. When you add it all up, we make over 50,000 contacts in our community. Just imagine it. That's a lot of contacts.
A lot of contacts.
That's why when I have 1 or 2 things go wrong, it happens, but I'm going, okay, but we got the other 49,999 right, maybe not. But I'm just saying, we do a lot of work. Even our fire department will answer again over 5,000 calls for our fire department. And that's a lot too, because you have to remember, they're going on all what they call a category 1. Those are the life-threatening medicals, fires, rescues, and it's in depth. There's a lot more to that. So our police and fire are definitely earning their taxpayers' money.
That's a lot of runs. And one of the things that we had talked about, and we'll get to that in the second half, is the wages that fire gets. But I want to stay on police. Last time you were here, you were talking about there was going to be an improvement, and you didn't want to rush into it, but you wanted to improve and get body cams. What's the update on that?
Well, in 2020, during COVID, when everyone was locked down, our department worked very hard, and we went through all the vendors, found the camera system we wanted, presented to our commissioners. They were more than happy to bring that technology to us. And like I told you before we came on the air, is we had the L3 system, which was a good system. It really was. It served us well, but it did not have a proper body cam device or an option. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or add-on. So we found the Motorola system WatchGuard that we brought in here. We are changing the whole system. So I want people to know, even though we're changing, we're trying to keep the L3 going until we segue into the new one.
Okay.
We think we'll have it all set up and ready to go because the parts are coming in now. All the pieces, they have to be installed. Then we have to do training. We have to make sure everything's working. There's a back end of the system, a front end of the system, and so on and so forth. But we will have body cams, we will have, in-car videos, audio, and all that during the transition. And then the end, we will be adding a highly technical body cam system that has a dash cam system, which also works inside our station and so on and so forth. So what we're trying to achieve here is getting good audio and good video of all our police contacts. But Gregory, one thing I want to understand is I still rely highly on the community. A lot of people come and they video what we do. I have no problem with that. We can get different angles. We don't have to have the only camera in town, correct?
Right.
And so a lot of times we go, even though we have body cam, we ask for the gas station. We ask for the one across the street. We ask for your video. We're trying to put it all together so we get a clear picture of what happened. We have no problem with us being challenged or taped or whatever you want to call it, because we have to be true with or without a video, correct?
If you're doing the right thing, you shouldn't have any problem.
We don't have any problem. So I want the citizens to know that I got no problem with them ever helping us. That's them stepping up, going, "Hey, this officer's having a problem. He's fighting this person. I'm going to help. I'm going to video."
Well, now this video system, that this body cam is different because it's recording and it's sending current and sending messages to like City Hall, or it's not like somebody could change the memory of the body cam, correct?
Right. I mean, this system it's like it's a proprietary system, which means we can't edit, change, delete. We can't do anything to our recordings. Yes, this has what they call point of present download. So we get near our points of presence, it downloads automatically. Where we don't have to rely on like an officer pulling out, let's say, a flash card or a SIM card and bringing it to us.
Right.
The device itself comes in, we glean it off that, or it transmits to our points of presence. That's a plus.
Okay.
Something else this does, it has a really intricate locking system to the officer. Before we had these clips, it just fall off or whatever.
They just fall off when you,
This thing, I'm telling you, it'd take an NFL football player to pull this off my uniform. I mean, this is really well secured to my uniform, so it stays put. It also has recall, so that if the camera is turned off inadvertently, because we allow things to be turned off and turned on for reasons. There are reasons that I come to your house just to have a conversation with you about nothing important. I don't have to videotape your whole house and then put it out for everybody to see. I'm allowed to turn it on and turn it off. But if something does occur, even though this camera system is off, we have a way in a certain, like a 24-hour period, to retrieve that information. Even though our in-car camera was turned off or our body cam was turned off, it's still on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't want everyone to know that. I'm not trying to trick anyone. The officers know it too. But sometimes we need that recall. If we park a car, turn it off and leave it and something happens, we now can go back and ask the video, what happened during those 2 hours that we were gone? At least it will show us certain angles of what went on.
Okay. Chief, I'm going to ask you if you move a little bit because you're like in a dark spot.
I think it's because I have a window in the back here. Let me just change my angle here.
There you go. Now we can see you.
It's getting better.
Yeah, we're getting a whole lot better. That's great. Okay. Thank you for that answer. Where'd you guys, how did it go when it came down to shootings and murders for 2020?
I haven't got all the numbers yet, but I'll tell you this. When I looked at the Micah reports for our 2020, it's disturbing. Some crime went down, other ones went up, and youth crime went right off the charts. Gun violence off the charts, shots fired off the charts. Certain ones spiked, while other ones did a valley. So obviously, one of our real concentration points in the police department and fire, you name it, is working on reducing youth like incorrigibility, nuisance, felonies, just the things they do when they have nothing else to do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And a lot of our programs were obviously put on hold, stopped, canceled. And Gregory, it drove me completely nuts to see these kids just sitting there with nothing to do. We even did a youth academy last summer. We were allowed to do it. We kept within the numbers. We did it safely. No one caught COVID. We had 10 kids come in from our community. It's a small number, but they were a couple of days at the fire department, a couple of days at the police department, because we're trying to develop kids into wanting to be part of our police and fire disciplines. And
Right.
the kids loved it. First couple of days, they kind of sat there, but by the fifth day, they're enjoying every minute of it because they were doing something else besides hanging out on the streets.
Well, I think that's important because if you look at the reason why I became a firefighter was every child has a dream, but it was walking through Central Station for the first time that made me want to be a firefighter.
Exactly.
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about is that you talked about the gun violence. Is that it used to be you might have shots fired once a week. Now you have a couple a day. And on a holiday by Muskegon High School, my daughter lives over there. And I have never heard so many gunshots. And it almost became, well, is that a firework or that's the gun? No, it was gunshots. How concerning is that to you? Actually, matter of fact, she's got through her house, like on a porch, she's got bullet holes from people shooting randomly. How?
We just can't have it. We just can't have it. And I'll tell you, just yesterday I was sitting in a guns program, and we have so much like gun activity during the program. I was on my phone. I was watching an event going down where we had a minor chase with an individual, and then of course we caught the individual. They have a gun on them, and then of course off to jail they go. And I'm just thinking to myself, and of course they were below 20 years old. See where this is going? Then last night it happened again. I woke up this morning. So we had 2 people arrested for guns, illegal guns yesterday, and went to jail. Now that's just 2 in one day. Now you multiply that times 362.
Right.
Now you're talking about hundreds of arrests, hundreds of guns. This thing I call a community gun, where we'll come across a handgun that was involved in maybe 2 or 3 murders. One gun, because it keeps getting passed along.
Well, wait a minute, hold on. Say that again.
I call it a community gun, where someone commits a homicide and then they ditch it or they dump it. Somebody else gets it within 2 or 3 weeks. Once again, it's involved in another shooting. By the time we get it, maybe the 3rd time around, we can trace it back to 2 other shootings. And that's sad because that's one gun causing 2 or 3 homicides or 2 or 3 shootings or 2 or 3 injuries. So every gun we get off the street, we could actually be solving 2 to 3 crimes that could occur in the future by just getting one gun in. And our department has been really working hard proactively to get these guns off, discover them, and get them off the streets. But as well as I do, juveniles, they're hard to keep in our juvenile detention center because of COVID. Our jail has been reduced to 50 to 60% less prisoners because of the COVID scare. And because of that, the community is suffering. And so we'd like to get back to where we have a full working system to address the violence, and we're allowed obviously to take violent criminals to jail, but we see these kids and even young adults committing these tweener crimes, that they really should go into the jail, but they don't go in, and we watch them for a month or 2, and before you know it, they're involved in violent crime. It's a vicious cycle.
Vicious cycle. How do you see your police officers talking to those teens out there that are just bored because of COVID, maybe not in school or maybe in gang activity? Um, how do we address that? How are your guys addressing that?
Well, I have my neighborhood officers that try, and they do a good job. They don't just try; they do a good job of, you know, uh, networking in the community, going to the meetings, talking to young people when there's not a call.
Hmm.
We're not there because we got called to a shooting, whatever. When we get called to a crime, you know as I do, that's not the best time to make friends or to talk to people about philosophies of life or whatever. So
Right.
we try really hard through social justice, our programs like the Aqua Star Cruise with the inner city kids, last day of school, fishing derby, the great program that we have in the Muskegon schools. We try to carve out time to talk to kids when I'm like Officer Jeff and they're like student Trisha. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Right.
And we're not there for any kind of service or placement, whatever. We're there as human to human, wearing a uniform so kids learn just because the chief's in a uniform doesn't mean he's going to act any different.
Right.
He's wearing a suit coat or a uniform. He's just Jeff. And
Right.
I know who he is and I can approach him. That's what we want our community to understand.
Right. It has to be that, because most of the time people forget that when you call 911, you are responding to a call, and that's probably somebody's worst day of their life. And the opportunity of meeting police officers and talking to them out of those situations, in favorable situations, like at the store, in a park, in a or just on the beat or at school, those relationships are important to establish very young, actually.
Right. Well, Gregory, one thing we did has been very, very helpful is a lot of times we get to a dynamic scene or a critical event and we're like not arguing with people, they're loud, they're upset, and then we're telling them to get back, and then there's a confrontation, right?
Hmm.
Well, and I'm going to give the credit here to the Michigan State Police, Chris McIntyre. They introduced the caution team program to us that they were doing in Flint and across the state, where we were getting pivotal people, very important people in the community, pastors, teachers, professors, whatever, that have a likeness to our crowd or the people we're dealing with. And when there's a critical event, we call the caution team.
Hmm.
They become the leader, and then we have a good rapport that we're able to speak to the caution team leader, let's say at the hospital or at the crime scene, and then they fill in or talk with, the upset citizens, and the information starts to flow.
That's a
And
new one. Now that's a new one. Caution
that's
team.
new.
Explain that one to me.
Yeah, the caution team is then what we do is we activate the caution team. Let's say Gregory, you come out, and right away I go, okay, Greg's here. I start talking to you. You turn around, start talking to the neighbors, or talking to the victim's mom or their family. Start giving them information. And I'm
Hmm.
not dealing with 10 or 12 people. I'm dealing with Gregory, and then you turn around and talk to them. It has calmed everyone down.
Hmm.
It has slowed the scenes down. Allows the officers to collect the evidence and do their jobs, but yet gives the citizens information and hope and the knowledge of what's going on instead of
Hmm.
us going, get back, go home, mind your own business,
Right.
which fires everyone up, correct?
Right.
So the caution team steps in, and now they're that liaison between, the victim's family or the neighborhood who want to know what's going on. And I can talk to you, you give the information, and we get along much better. And I'll tell you that the state police brought that program here, and I've been forever grateful because we've used it, I mean, 50 times in the last couple of years.
Right. Now, with the police department, um, and the changes that you guys have made, um, you guys are actually looking for people, correct? Because like you said, you're a couple positions down.
Yes, yeah, we're going to be hiring for quite some time.
Okay.
There's two kinds we hire. It's the pre-service, and then we also have created that program, that developmental program. Um, One of the problems we have, though, is when we're really in need of police officers, you really got to go hire the ones that are called pre-service. They have all the certifications, and as soon as we hire them, we can put them right into a car and get in the training program.
Right.
But we're saving spots for the developmental, where we get people from our community that never had access or the ability to get all those certifications, college degrees and stuff. and we're bringing them up through our developmental program. So we're meeting our needs of diversifying the department, but at the same time of hiring.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 feeder programs now instead of just one.
Well, uh, I was talking as we were talking before. I was one of those kids that had that opportunity. I didn't have the training, came off the streets, but took the test, passed the interview, and started from ground zero.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had a kid from Muskegon that started from ground zero, didn't have the experience, but with the training with the fire department, received all the certificates that I needed to do through the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, do you see that can happen to any kid now or any adult now that might
Yes.
want to change and
No,
become
yeah.
involved?
Yeah. Yes, that's happening right now in the police department. And we've probably hired, I'm going to say about 4 from our community through our developmental program.
Okay.
But the fire department, it's just starting there. We recognize the same problem in the fire department. We're not diverse. We don't have a pool of diverse candidates, but we realize the minority candidates, or those people that want this job, do not have access or the ability to get those certifications. So we're going to step in with our developmental program, and over that, like I said, that year or two, we're going to work with them to get them to be what we call a career firefighter.
Okay, so let's end this segment um, with police. With the police, are people helping with crime, or if they have a neighbor that's maybe doing something that's incorrect, or teens on the streets, gunshot shots fired. What are things that people can do to help Chief Jeffrey Lewis and the Muskegon Police Department?
Well, number one is, I'll tell you, we are nothing without our citizens. And I always ask for cooperation. And I understand you're just not going to stand out there on your street and give us all the information that could put you in danger. We completely understand that. But through Sound Observer, we have a tip line, that they can call in with anonymous information. A lot of people do call in with anonymous information. They never give their name. Through Sound Observer, there's a reward program there. They don't have to give their name. We never know who they are. But if you kind of tell us a few things, we can sometimes put it together without you giving up your name or testifying, because you're kind of pointing us in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, the person, when they call out silent observer, aren't they giving it like a code name or something?
Yep. If they just call Sound Observer, if you just Google it, you'll get their. Because a lot of times it's through the app, it's through texting and stuff like that. They give you a number. They'll keep you abreast of what's going on, and there are reward programs there. And then they relay the information to us, and we cannot have access to who that is. We even work with what we call confidential informants, and we do not give up their information because they point us in the right direction. They give us information. And I hate to say it, it's not snitching. It's really, in our community, when there's a death of a young person and you give me information, why would I label you as a snitch? Come on. There's been a death to a person here. We've got to stop that in our community. We need help. We have the means to get it through, to get the case going, get it to our prosecutor's office and prosecute it. But we need help at the onset, at the scene, pointing us in the right direction, which people do all the time.
Right.
They help us. Without their help, we are harmless. I mean,
now, I think you brought up something, because if you mess around in my neighborhood, they say snitches get stitches. You better get ready, because if you do something in my neighborhood, or you do something that could possibly affect somebody, I'm calling the police. And I think until we start, instead of you complaining about gunshots being fired, why don't you do something about it? Call 911. If you know the individual, don't you approach that individual about maybe shooting guns. Let police hire that.
Oh, exactly. We're working on a case right now where we have, what we think like a drug house, and we have had anonymous neighbors supply us with vehicles, plate numbers, descriptions, times that this is happening. It has stopped the activity. But without them, I cannot park marked and unmarked police cars in the neighborhood. We would never get it done. We'd
Never.
waste our resources, spend a lot of wages for nothing, and have
Right.
nothing to show for it. Those neighbors shortcut us for it. Nobody has to go to court. They gave us those pieces of the puzzle. We're going to put it together. And the drug house, like what I call the drug lord,
Mhm.
they know there's something up. And I think they're going to be moving out because they know there's this force against them. They really can't put their finger on it,
Right.
but they know they can't operate like that anymore
Right.
simply because we're acting on good tips. And each time we do, we ring the bell. In other words, we
Okay.
get something done, and this person's going, okay, this isn't just the police. This is I got a greater problem here, but they can't identify who is giving us the information.
Mhm.
They won't have a clue. I'm telling
Mhm.
you.
Okay.
Now they can
Now,
guess all day long, but
and I need you to put the fire hat on now.
okay.
Um, uh, the numbers when I was there were 45, 46 deep. A lot of positions, multiple trucks, extra trucks, uh, but things have changed. A lot of seniority, but as you and I were talking about, things have changed. Um, let's talk about how things have changed. Okay. The last time you were on, we were talking about the pay scale is too low, and that's one thing that's got to go to the commission, and we got to get that pay up so we don't get firefighters over here and then they get trained and then they leave. We got to keep them we got to keep them in the community. So, what is the latest going on with the fire department?
Okay, the fire department, a couple of things here is, way back in, let's say, the 1940s, there was like 90 firefighters here. Well, that's because there was hardly any fire prevention programs. Everybody used candles and kerosene, and their houses were all wood. They
Mhm.
probably had, 10,000 fires a year. And everything was, their engines were the size of a car. There was a lot of problems. There probably wasn't any kind of water resource or anything else. Well, let's flash forward to 2021. Okay, today we have a very extraordinary building program. The fire department works feverishly on fire prevention, fire safety, fire education, so on and so forth. How structures are built are much different today
Right,
than they were 40, 50 years ago.
right.
That has reduced the fires. Now, we do have an older housing stock in Muskegon. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our fire engines are 20th century fire engines. You know what I'm talking about, Gregory. Those trucks in the 60s don't hold a candle, the ones we have now.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to keep them running. You have to admit, you have to keep them running.
Right.
But we do a lot with less staff now because of technology, new building codes, the International Fire Maintenance Code, those kind of things. That's what's reduced our numbers. The most I've had since I was here was about 10 per shift. But at the time we had a contract that allowed a lot of people to be off. So just to maintain 6 or 7, I had to have 10 on a shift. Well, since then we've negotiated with the union. We've changed a few things as far as past time off. They still get past time off, but not so much each day. So right now I have 8 on one shift. I have 7 on 2 shifts. I have a new fire inspector, a fire marshal. I've hired a deputy director. Those are all new positions except for the fire marshal. Um, we just hired 3 firefighters and that fire inspector. We do have plans to hire more in the near future, but we do want to save a few of those positions for that developmental program I told you about, right?
Well,
So
let's talk. Let's talk. Oh, hold on. Let's answer this question. I got to go back to
yeah,
police. It says, "Do you use no knock warrants?"
we we have never used what they call a no knock warrant since I have been here. It
Okay.
is a terrible procedure. The courts demand that you knock and announce,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. There may be a time, one case out of 100, I'm going to make this up, like a kidnapping case where I think the victim's in the house in the basement and I have to break in there to save this kidnapped victim or they're going to kill him, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
right? I probably wouldn't knock on that warrant because
Mm-hmm.
by knocking would endanger the kidnapped victim. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But on any regular, normal felony or misdemeanor issued warrant for, this is Fourth Amendment now, for a home, we arrive, we are identified as the police department, we knock and enter. Now, if you don't come to the door, obviously we're going to come through the door. Okay.
Coming to the door. Right.
But we're knocking. Okay. But like I
Mhm.
said, there's times where there's what I call exigent circumstance, which is a very, very, very small number. And I better be able to go to court and articulate that in an open, transparent court, or I'm losing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
But yes, I am completely 100% always have been against what you call a no-knock warrant.
Okay.
That's not a good strategy.
Thank you, Michael Smith, for that question. Listen, if you have questions, please address them. We're on Facebook live right now as we speak. We never do a taped show; it's live, so you can get those questions on, and we'll give you the. You can either go through WVS 103.7 The Beat. You can go through M106, but the most important thing, you have a chance to talk to the chief. Okay, back to fire. There is a point, and we talked about this earlier, that you guys were using other fire trucks because things happen, trucks break down. You got to keep. Is there any inkling maybe coming from the commission that um, of buying new trucks for the fire department?
Yes, there is. We have a truck committee right now, but once again, because of COVID, if we would have ordered that truck last September, they said we probably wouldn't get it to 2022. That's the backlog. And now let me go from there.
Wow.
So our new committee is working on getting a new truck, and trucks cost between 600,000 and 1.3 million. We're not talking like buying a car here, like a police car.
No.
These trucks are intricate. They are high tech. They're expensive. They're custom built. And I think Gregory could expand on that if I'm missing it.
Just look at the ladder truck that was purchased a couple years ago, talking about a technical truck, and that ended up being a lemon. And you have to watch what you do. So you really do have to set up committees to make sure that you're getting the best out there, or you will end up with a dud.
Exactly. So let me go back to July and August when this happened. Typically, your vehicles do well in the summertime. They just don't break as much as they do in the wintertime. I mean, let's face it. Look at your car. It responds better in the summertime. Well, two things happened. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm going to give you what went down. We lost all our experienced mechanics when we had our retirement. Okay. So I brought on 3 new mechanics. They're fantastic, but it's going to take them time to get the experience to really get to know these trucks. Okay. So they didn't know the trucks, and all of a sudden the trucks had a little flurry of breakdowns. Let's go back to COVID now. We ordered one part that this truck would not run without this part. And after about 4 to 5 weeks, the manufacturer told me, I have no idea where your manifold is. It's somewhere between China, Malaysia, and I don't know where. And I mean, then we tried looking at maybe getting one off a used truck. I said, what's going on? They said, COVID, logistics, everything's shut down. Well, that's one truck. Well, then you know what happened? Another truck broke down. So we sent that down to a repair shop. You know what the guy told me? Well, normally I have 5 mechanics working, but because of COVID, I have 2. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but it started getting frustrating. But I'll tell you, we got through it. We instantly, our commission said, you got to do something. Staff and myself got together. We did buy a pre-owned fire truck. We got a good truck for a reasonable price here that was working. That saved our tail feathers. It really did. We were able to go to another community that theirs was going out the door. Their new one was coming in. We had to do something.
Right.
I don't recommend that all the time, but we did act and do that. And then there's something else is Eccleston Township and Muskegon Township, who are just fantastic communities, stepped up.
Right.
And mutual aid loaned us a truck. Now, you can throw stones at that, but I'll tell you what, when I'm in need, I'm going to do what it takes to serve our citizens. And I'll tell you what, I was fortunate enough that those 2 communities said, we'll step up and help you out. But since then, Greg, and before them, when other communities need anything, I'm going to do everything I can to help them also. When I'm having a sunny day, they're having a bad day, our trucks are going there. My resource, I will go there. Whatever it takes to help them, I will do that because they did that for me. So I didn't see that as a real negative. I saw that as, hey, we got ourselves in a corner, but we had a good rapport, and then people stepped up. And that's painful.
I can say that for the community, that the fire departments and the police department, they work very well together. When somebody's down or low in numbers, they work very well together. Would you agree?
Oh, I agree. And I'll tell you, the people of Muskegon County, they don't realize, especially in our what I call the urban area, because you know how it's all like suburbia and urban and inner city, and then it's just like country. We have like 5 or 6 communities all like contiguous, and they have adjacent lines. We work like a large city. As those resources cross those streets, Keating, they cross the freeway, they cross Sherman, they cross those streets to help other communities seamlessly because we're not miles apart. Where I came from, the next community was 6 miles away. So I asked for a fire truck from the neighboring community. It's 6 miles away. Here, it's like 6/10 of a mile from the fire scene, like Muskegon Heights. They come help us. We go help them. Our border, they border us, we border them on 3 sides.
Right.
So our police and fire exchange all the time. That's a strength for both communities.
Same as the township.
Absolutely.
Same as the
Yeah,
township.
Norton Shores. You know,
Now the fire department. Now, are you working a cadet program with the fire department? Is that a cadet program?
yeah, like I said, we're trying to develop what we call the intern or the cadet program with fire. That's the only way we're going to be able to get our Muskegon citizens or you know our people in the program. See,
Okay.
these township stuff, they have volunteer programs. So if you live in a township, you get to come to their volunteer fire department, and then they might have like 40 volunteers, right? So they're training people all the time, and they're all good to go, right? Because the community has a program. Here, I have just full time.
Right.
I don't really have a feeder program like that.
Mhm.
So if you don't have all your certificates and medical certificates and your firefighter 1 and 2 certification, like you're just dead in the water. I can't bring you on. So we're going to try to change that. But and you mentioned it, our numbers have to be appropriate to serve the community before I start shorting the community for the developmental program.
And,
You know what I mean?
that's one thing I'm concerned with,
Yeah.
Chief, is the numbers of the fire department maybe being too low. It's not something that you can bring in volunteers to help with. It's something that you really have to be trained to deal with a medical, deal with shootings, deal with going into homes and knocking down that fire. So it's not amateur hours. You got it. And that was one thing I was talking to you about earlier. Is that for the first time I think I know 2 firefighters, and and that's unheard of. I only think I know 2. Do you think that the fire department is too young, or these people that we have are capable to handle any situation?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to go on a limb. I say they're capable. I live in the city. They're capable. I'm responsible for this. They're accountable to respond and know what they're doing. And like I said, I've got this command staff in place right now, and they are they have some senior experience dotted in there, not much, but I tell you, I watch them on a daily basis. And if I could show you the hirees, anytime you like come down, I'll give you a tour.
Okay.
I'll show you some of the hirees we got. Like we got one individual. He's now a lieutenant. He's only been here 2 years. He's a lieutenant. He came from out west. He was in the Air Force on a big Air Force base. He was in Air Force fighting services, fought fires out west, the whole 9 yards. Well, he came to us. He's not from Muskegon, but I'll tell you what, he brought some great experience with him. Not inner city experience, but he brought a lot of knowledge in the fire service. So although he's 2 years here, he's already a command officer, but he shows us the talent that he has. Because the military gave him a lot of really solid training and experience being on a Air Force base where you have high explosives, fuels, dynamic events that can happen. He brought out, and he's just one example of many that have brought stuff to our table that I'm grateful for. We didn't just pull these people out of the fire academy or just pluck them out of high school. They're not like that. I could show you their resumes, their experience. Yeah, they don't have, let's say, 10 years with Grand Rapids Fire, but I just hired, I believe, 3 from Grand Rapids Township, and that's right outside this large metropolis.
Right.
The fire inspector came from there. 2 firefighters came from there, and I'm really proud because they get experience over there in Grand Rapids. They just do.
Do you think that the city commission is going to address the problem? I think the starting wage is 11 something for a firefighter. Is it?
Well, we really don't break it down by the hour because that's kind of skewed. What we do is we have a base salary. Right now, their base salary starting out per year, probationary firefighters, is about $32,000 a year. Okay.
Okay.
That's excluding the fringe benefits. Okay. Now, that is not good, anyways. It just
No.
isn't. But the reason it sounds low per hour is firefighters work, you know this, they don't work a 40-hour work week. They work a 53 and a half hour schedule. So when you divide 2880 into 32,000, that's where you get the $11 an hour. Okay.
Hmm.
It is true, but we don't pay them like our 40-hour staff. It's a different formula, so on and so forth. But doesn't mean, I'm not saying they get paid well, because they don't. But I'll tell you this, it's not the commission that's going to address this. It's going to be the city administration
Hmm.
and the union. All our firefighters have the ability to negotiate their wages and benefits. Our contract will be up, I believe, in 22 or 23. We've done other things to help them out, like this residential bonus and things like that. I always say that the contract is a living document. I've encouraged them a couple of times that we should do mutual, mutual letters or agreements during a contract to address these things like you're talking about. And the
Right.
union has been open to that because it's a new day. Even in my
Right.
police side, we're talking about experience. I've been here just about 10 years. I've hired like 57 of the 80 police officers.
Hmm.
Is that crazy or what?
That's
I
great.
know chiefs that worked for 5 or 6 years and hired 2 or 3 people. I've worked less than a decade and hired 50 some people. That's unbelievable
Right.
because it's a sign of the times or the age. A lot of our experience is stepping out the door. Like with me, the average age for a police officer in Michigan is like 50 years old. Is that ridiculous?
That's
They're staying
insane.
too long.
That's insane. The
Staying
average
too long.
50 years? Come
Yeah,
on.
they're staying too long. But that means, but the bigger problem is there's no feeder program at the bottom. So we're
Right.
enticing people to stay, drop program. You've heard of that. All these things. Like me, I've done 42 years in law enforcement. Really? 42 years. Because we need people in our field.
Hmm.
We really need, I plead for that. Hey, replace me, please. Let's get some young people and some dynamic people. And
Well,
let's
yeah.
get them in. It's a great police and fire inspections. They're great jobs. They are. I know the media doesn't always portray the police in the best light. Come on, you can make a difference. You can make this better.
Right.
Like I tell people, I don't long for the old days when I first started. We
Hmm.
are so much better today, police departments, than we were in the late 70s. That should be another topic because we are so far advanced, so far service our citizens. Everything we do is tenfold better. That's why
Right.
it kind of hurts my heart when the community is not happy with the younger officers. Because I'm telling you, I want to stand up and say this. Our young officers are so dedicated. They have good hearts. They're not out there trying to hurt people.
Hmm.
They really are trying to serve. They make mistakes. They don't always do things right. They don't. But
Hmm.
that's where us and the community have to address these issues and draw the line for them. They need to know where the line in the sand is. They do. And
Right.
these departments, and I've been around for 4 decades. When I see a department or a chief or city not telling the police officers what they want, you're seeing the Ferguson. You're
Mm.
seeing the Baltimore. You're seeing these things.
And we do not need that.
We do. And that's why if the community tells me, hey, this person did a chokehold on me, okay, I'm not mad at you. I want to know that. I am going to go look and I'm going to address that. The good news is if you told me we did a chokehold, you're still here, you're still alive, you're complaining. That is good. You're complaining. That is good. Because if you're not here and we did it, you know what that means, right?
Mm.
We have a huge problem.
Yeah,
So
huge problem.
let's address it right at the beginning. And that's why I'm proud of our police department. I think we do that because we recognize we're human. We recognize we make mistakes, but I also recognize a complaint is not bad. You can't be afraid. I tell people we're not vindictive. We're not going to take it out on you.
Right.
That's what we find out if our department is producing the right product, right?
Mhm.
You know,
I think one thing that I think that the city commission has to address that pay, because what you do is what you're becoming is you're becoming a feeder program.
Yeah.
You're training the police and training the fire department, and instead of those people staying, they're getting better jobs with better pay, and they're leaving with no
Hmm.
incentive to stay. And I
Right.
think there's one thing that the commission, they have to get through their head, that they got to offer more money. At least that's my opinion.
No, I do. And also, Gregory, it's more than that. We have to offer good benefits. We
Yeah.
have to offer a great place to live and
Yes.
play and
Hmm.
raise our kids.
Hmm.
It's not just because I give you a little bit of money, but that's important. Doesn't mean you're going to stay. But we have to give you a quality of life and other issues. And we're working on several different items to make this a great place to live, work, and play. And
Now,
raise your kids.
we were talking before the show. Now, you said on the fire department you added some staff to. If you don't know, the police department, I mean, the fire department has 3 different shifts: red, green,
Mhm.
and blue,
Yes.
and they operate on a different schedule. And
Yes.
the only connection we had basically was at 7 o'clock in the morning when we were passing each other. Maybe we might, talk a little bit about the Bad Chiefs will bring us together and talk about what happened the day before. But you have a new element to this.
Yeah, back in about 2015, 15, 16, a lot of things were going on back then. But one of the things I noticed right away is I'm the director of police fire inspection. So I was looked at as the fire chief. But the problem was, even though I'm there every day, I'm not running the organization or the operation
Hmm.
that I was allowing the bat chiefs. And you just hit the nail on the head. 3 qualified people doing their jobs, but I have 3 different fire departments in one building.
Hmm.
We saw that. I started asking my commission for what I called a deputy fire chief or assistant chief. And in 2018, they approved that. Jay Paulson came in, very experienced individual from Grand Haven. He went through the ranks there, public safety, knows fire. He was a fire marshal, knows inspections. He was actually working for our Muskegon Inspections as a dangerous building technician. I brought him over to the fire department as deputy director of fire, and that's where things started really changing. He sits there every day, bringing those shifts together, having continuity across shift lines, addressing their little needs that I did not see, right?
Hmm.
Those small equipment issues or like morale issues or whatever. He keeps a real good thumb on the pulse. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Okay.
And I'll tell you, during COVID, he led that fire department. We didn't have any people that caught COVID on duty, and here is why. We had safety equipment, safety practices. We worked closely with the union. They gave us their input, whether we liked it or not, and they gave us good input. We worked really, really hard to perform our service, keep our people safe, not lock the doors. And 2020 came and went. And I'm so proud of them because I think people overlooked that. But yeah,
Hmm.
we had a truck issue. We had some hiring issues. We had a lot of issues. Well, I'll tell you what, it was during COVID, man, and it was a problem. It was a problem year. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we struggled through it because we couldn't drop our guard. We couldn't lessen our service. We had to perform and then deal with this pandemic monster. That's what I called it. It was a
Right.
monster. We paralleled it though. We couldn't just lock the door and hide. We had to get right out there, serve our citizens. We were exposed to COVID several times a week, our staff. And
Right.
what we do, we held our breath and we waited. But they wore gowns, they wore their equipment, they kept their safety, they did cleanliness, they cleaned the trucks, they
Hmm.
did all their jobs, and they kept themselves safe. We had a few firefighters that come down with it, and those contacts came when they were off duty. That happens. Then we protected the shift from those people. But
Hmm.
we got through it because the professionalism, the expertise, the excellence, and then also mentally, they were in the game. And
Right.
they could complain about everything, but they just didn't.
Chief, I need to have you back because I want to talk the third hat that you wear, inspections.
Certainly.
And I want to keep this conversation going. I think if you have any questions, you have made yourself available anytime that we wanted to talk, we've talked. And so um, he's accessible. How can people reach you if or they need to talk to the chief of police, or would like you to attend their church or meeting?
Well, first of all, we have the help desk on our website. You can reach out that way, through our website, through our help desk, and ask. You can just walk in the police department and ask for me. Try to set up an appointment. You can actually call me 724-6955. That's my executive assistant answers that phone. She'll either pick it up or you can leave a message. I'll get back with you. And we do want to be accessible. We do want to, talk with you. And that's one thing I'm going to give you some kudos, Gregory, is you bring me on. This is live. This is not, you're not dubbing me. You're not editing what I say. You ask these tough questions, and I've got one chance to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the pureness of this. And I appreciate you just bring me on. You don't answer, you could probably put me in a corner, but you don't. You're good about things. You're getting information community. I thank you for that. But I'll tell you what makes me prepared for this, because Gregory, you didn't tell me what you're going to ask me today.
No.
How I prepare is every day when I go to work, I see what we're doing. I try to address the problems. I try to see the successes. I try to really know what's going on, because someday Gregory's going to call me, start asking me questions. I better know what the hell's going on. Right? Excuse me. I better know what the heck's going on.
And that's right. And you know what, Chief? We've run out of time, but I'm going to have you back on. Listen, you've been listening or watching or both, Torn to with our guest, Chief Jeffrey Lewis. Chief, know that you can come on anytime. This is Torn to Two. We'll see you next week with our guest. Take care and God bless.
On behalf of everyone in our community and in